with us. And the topic we're getting into today and telling some story around, and perhaps even solution for viewers, is becoming your sensual self, your woman self, your full bodied self in the presence of your mother. This topic is in part inspired by Monday's live stream. Okay, that static thing is happening again. Is that toy or whatever you had near you? No, okay. Well, it is what it is. Today's topic is inspired in part by the live stream Maida and I co-hosted on Monday. If you'd like to go back and take a look at that, you can. The title was From Latina Martyr to Shameless Woman. Beautiful share. And so it's not only inspired from that, but also just what's true about the feminine collective. And this is what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about it obviously from a modern perspective and our real world perspective, but this is tied to a much larger collective topic of the systems that humanity lives under, which is the um, like the overcast is religion, and the different ways that the binds of religion imprisons humanity, okay? Psychically, physiologically, spiritually. And so, this one topic that we're talking today around basically being a full woman in front of your mother. And to be clear, a real woman, a full woman, a whole woman, a complete woman, the center of her, the real drive of her is her primal, sensual self. Now, I know the word primal has a lot of negative. People just, there's so much like demonizing and constriction and like fear and like this knee jerk need to control and tame whenever we start talking about the word primal. And we will never escape the fact that the very source creation from which all life springs is primal itself. So it's not, there's that's a whole other conversation. So it's when I talk about being a woman in front of your, not even just your mother, but women, it just starts with your mother. Being your sexual self in front of women, your mother, starting with you, okay, with whomever you're having sex with, who you're doing business with, having sincere conversations with. Your primal state and being in refinement and approval of your primal state is actually, first of all, where your innocence is. It's where your peace is. It's where your authentic creation is. And so this is a much larger topic, and we're going to narrow it down to, simplify it as much as we can inside of a YouTube video. So Myra, thank you so much for being here today. To our viewers, the doors are open to the woman community until Sunday. So the part of what we're discussing here is what I just described, but then also how you can be supported and refining your power, coming home to your body, being fully inhabited in your body and creating from there, launching your projects from there, getting really good with your own financial rhythm from there, being who you really are, the whole unapologetic womanhood, like all the things that constitute real power for a woman. The woman community is where we are very happy to support you in doing that. And your gateway into the woman community is the Womanhood Initiation. And there's one of those happening today at 5 p.m. And then the final one for this week is Sunday. Again, the Womanhood Initiation is your gateway into the woman community. So, Maida, where would you like to start with this? Would you like to pick up where we left off, on TikTok earlier? Would you like to, you feeling like you want to go somewhere else?
Sure. Hi everyone. My name is Maida. Thank you for joining us if you came over from TikTok. If you're just joining us now, I use pronouns like she, they, ella. I was born in Costa Rica. I come from both parents Costa Rican family, um, and I'm an openly queer and lesbian woman.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and so that's just a little bit about me. I've worked in the social impact sector. I've experienced a lot of high stress, high impact roles as a social impact executive, and have really come into the women community. First and foremost, I thought I knew what I wanted coming into the community, and then getting to the root
Yeah.
of what I wanted, really has me in this place of embracing more leisure,
Yeah.
of being embraced and witnessed by other women who are also in the process of their level up, their ascension. Um, and yeah, it's been beautiful. So please come over and join us for this initiation and know that the initiation is the first step. I think the initiation is it never stops.
Yeah.
But take that first step and join this initiation so that you can be held in community with us in that never ending process. So
Okay.
motherhood, being sensual in front of your mother, that has been a huge journey for me. I have navigated a lot of layers of stigma, right? So I'm
Mm.
just going to try to like pull this apart by offering different snippets of my childhood.
Thank
I
you.
truly thought I would never be out openly queer and lesbian in my lifetime.
Mm.
Uh, I really, even as a teen, I never thought it would happen because I was raised and I felt kind of typical pools, right, between like culture and like who you're expected to be and who I really know I am
Mm.
as a child. And that was expressed most as for me as a child. I was very hyperactive. I presented myself as more gender non-conforming, right? Not in the typical expected feminine way girls um, in my culture should be or whatever. We're expected to show up. And so as a result, I was hit a lot as a kid, and my mom especially, there was something in our relationship in particular that was very electric
Mm.
and adversarial. Um,
Mhm.
that led to a lot more me receiving a lot more corporal punishment from her compared to even my sisters.
And would
Um,
you like to speak to what that was at a root level?
oh my God. I think at the root level, um, definitely fear.
Mhm.
I think there was an unconscious, um, though misled, I think protective spirit my mom thought she was putting on me when I stepped out of line, right, and
Mhm.
what girls should be doing. I think she thought that by beating me when I went out into the world, I would somehow be at less risk of
Mhm.
violence, ridicule, um, looking bad,
Mhm.
making the family look bad, um, making her look bad.
Mhm.
Um, and so there was this electricity around it, and I was quite defiant. I'm not even like, I'm not into this where I'm like, I was so abused. I was a handful. I was.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Make that very clear as a
Which
child.
is
And
also a
yeah.
very primal in a being when your
Mhm.
mother is your connection to life, and when this being who you have this connection to, you can feel that she doesn't approve of you as a child. I have a niece, and I see how very sensitive she is to how everybody is receiving her. And,
Mhm.
you work with women, I work with women, and as a child, those first 5 years, the child is hyper sensitive to the relationship with the mother. So a big part of your defiance, and because I know women and I just love interacting with my niece to help her blossom, and I notice how, like, I'm much more permissive with her. My mother was just saying yesterday, "You're so much more permissive with her." And that's because I know if you don't give a child a room to show who they are and then support them in developing in their true selves, rebellion will start. But rebellion
Yeah.
is actually not the norm for it's not. Rebellion is a reaction to when the child can sense that who they are is unwelcome in the village that they're in. So for you to be
Mhm.
like that with your mom, like you were like, I was a handful. Yeah, because you sensed that your mom didn't approve of you, you know?
Mhm.
And I want women to know that, who think that I've always been rebellious and I yeah, because you felt that at one. Like, because children, my niece, before she was even one, she was showing this sort of independent spirit. And I started telling my mom and them, I said, and I tell my mom today, Mom, you got to give her room. You can't be like trying to make her do everything the way you think it should be done and trying to force. Because what I noticed with my niece is she gets like that with my mom because my mom is like that with her. And she's not like that with me. And it's because I'm not trying to make her do it my way because I'm the authority and I'm the adult and I know better than you. So she wants to be with me. My mom tells everybody I'm second fiddle when Naima is around, you know, and she wants me over everybody. And that's because I allow her to. And so I'm saying that because I really want us to track this sexual self and how you're describing the way it activated your mom, and like at a mother level, it's like I need to protect my daughter. And there's a deeper part here we won't get into because we really can start touching on things that can make this live stream go all day and become multi-part. So in the interest of keeping it narrow and more succinct for now, the mother's desire to protect the child. So I want adult women listening to this today to, when so much of us are wrapped up in the emotion of not being loved by our mother, which can oftentimes prohibit the power we're looking for, prohibit us allowing ourselves to get free through the pain, that we can remember your mother is a person before you got here. She has her own desires and shames and identity. Then you being in a typical, what'd you call it? What's that word you use? The name of the culture?
In a typical Latina household, Central American, I think to be more specific.
What was the word you used for spanking?
Oh, the chancla culture, goodness.
Chocolate
Yeah,
culture, yeah.
chancla culture was
Yeah, with the
big.
machismo, marianismo, so all these factors, right, that is influencing your mom's kind of parenting, okay? And so I want women, adult women watching this to hold that your mom was her own being before you were born with her own shame and her own relationship with her sexuality. And for most of us 30 and over, and even under, but our mothers do not have vibrant, healthy, loving relationships with sex, with body, with her own primal state. And here you come, Maida, this child who's gay. What? Right? So you're
Hmm.
activating all kind of stuff in her, and then what she does as a result. And then you don't know this, right? As a 3-year-old, you just suddenly find out now you're a handful because you can feel that your mother doesn't approve of who you are and how that affects the relationship, how it affects the way you blossom. Okay. So I just want women to hold this as we progress in this conversation so you can potentially break through in this live stream. So
No,
continue.
100%. I think
Yeah.
you're super precise
Mhm.
in that analysis. And I think there's so many messages I got growing up. We've already spoken about La Sacrificada, but there was a specific moment where I remember um, it was a family gathering, and it was my mom, my aunt, and others, where there was a conversation happening, and I wasn't super tuned into the conversation. But something that was said was mejor puta que lesbiana.
Mm,
It's better to have a slut as a
mm,
daughter than a lesbian.
mm.
And I
That's
remember I was,
wow.
and to bring some levity into this, I always tell my mom now, I'm like, oh well, you ended up with a daughter that's both. Um,
A daughter and a hoe, you said?
like I'm a slut and a lesbian. I'm like, you ended up with a
Wow.
daughter that's both, and she's just like, I roll.
Incredible. And this makes me think about how sexuality is so uh like celebrated and approved of in Latin culture because it's better to be a slut than a gay person,
Yeah,
right?
or specifically a lesbian, right? Because let's talk about like
Mm.
the idea that a woman can orgasm, get off, be aroused, have a vibrant life without the presence of a man is
Oh,
deeply, deeply. unsettling for a lot of people, for a lot of folks that I grew up with.
Yeah.
Um, so there was this level of like, oh well, and so I remember hearing that, and my mom wasn't even the one that said it, but my mom said nothing. Um, yes, the power of silence and even the approval, right? Um, through not voicing.
Mhm.
And so, like, I remember hearing that, and I was like, okay, well, this self I feel inside of myself, it was in a very, like you said, primal way coming out. There was no containing her. Um, and it I grew up into a very rebellious child,
Mhm. Mhm.
and ironically, I was also very high achieving. Like I was like a really good student. I checked off all the boxes, um, and trying to like just like be a successful person.
Yeah.
But when it came to rules in my house, I was quite rebellious.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
want to, because how I'm thinking, Maida, as you're talking, is for women to track the evolution of her to see herself to some degree in your share and into her current state where um women who are no contact with their mother right now, women who see their mother as disrespectful to them and non approving of their motherhood, their life choices, who maybe don't like them, and it still lives in the realm of we are enemies, we are pain, and it's not looked at, or it's hard to look at what's underneath it all. I want us to so I want you to, if you will, because right, you can share whatever you want and don't want, because something you said earlier when you were like, she who was in me was like, right. So like all little girls who, when your mother doesn't protect you, right? If she doesn't, someone is saying something about who you are, your mother doesn't chastise them, and you register that as she's approving of, what they're saying. She's not protecting me, like what that does to a being. Or when you hear your mother say, because how old were you when she said, "I'd rather have a slut than a lesbian daughter"? Do you remember how old you
Yeah,
were?
or, when I heard that from someone else in her
Oh,
presence, I was like 8 or 9.
boom,
Um,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
then so you hear your mother say something like that, or she snarls at you for the way you start to carry yourself, especially as your body starts to bloom, right? You get breasts now, and your mom seems to not be approving of how you dance, or your dad uses a tone that says he doesn't approve of how you are as is. And this is
Mhm,
how a woman will put on a whole other thing at 11, but then forgets who she is. I want all women listening to understand this is how this goes. Maybe it
mhm,
didn't happen exactly as I'm saying it, but some version of, we have a former member who her mother started to not approve of her dancing, just how
mhm,
she danced at 11, 12 years old. So she knocked all that down. And now when you interact with her as a mother, now she's a mother. She's like this now. She's like, and she talks like, when you talk to her, she talks like, I know that I'm just like something, yeah, yeah. Right. So that's her expression of repression, and this is very layered what we're talking about. I just want all women to understand that you forgot how beautiful and luscious you naturally are, okay? Oh my God. I mean, just think about if you can go there, even not even like vivid memory, but just a deep felt memory. I remember Maida talking about you were very physical, you climb things, and this is
mhm,
how many girls are, where you see little girls on TikTok or whatever today, and they're alive.
mhm,
They're talking and they're animated and they're fully embodied. And then how women learn to like be so neck up and scared of uh, uh, it's learned. So when we can like calm down out of the tension and the emotionality and all the emotions that pile up on top of the desire to be free. Because what we want is to be free. We want to be free. But on top of it is the rage and the at men and then the patriarchy. And then it becomes, oh God, then it gets, before you know, you're all the way up here with everything. And you really want to be down here. And
Mm.
you want to play, and you want to dance, and you and you want to laugh, and you want to return to who you were before you got like you. I just remember like you
Down.
expressed, yeah, yeah. So I want every woman watching it, and even men, because there are some men who quietly watch. This is what a woman is looking for always, and what women get really good at is noticing how people react to her the more she starts to unleash. And so many men show that they don't want a free woman. No, no,
Mm,
right? Because so many men don't understand that they have been programmed to reject the full feminine. They are, they are trained that no, this is what makes a good woman. No, this again, to go back to what I said in the beginning of this live stream, the religious binds that are meant to imprison all of humanity, including men. Men
mhm.
oftentimes just don't see it. So, okay, thank you, Mom.
Yeah, I think, that rebellious spirit just carried through in my life, and I think, for the women out there, I can't tell anyone what to do. No one could really tell you what to do. And how everyone's relationship to their mom is so different.
Yeah.
Um, will say the growth my mom has really shown has taken more than a decade. And, those early memories of that woman who stayed silent at that table of other women who said that mejor puta que lesbiana is now grown into this huge advocate, and it's like, sometimes I'm like embarrassed. I'm like, Mom, we don't need to do this here. Like, especially, she adores my partner.
Yeah.
Um, as I do, she's and then there's a she does feel, I think, a level of some of the hypervigilance, whenever we go into a Colombian restaurant and Chris and I walk in with holding hands and then everyone just stops talking and like looks at us. Everyone, I mean, whether queer, straight, everyone's experienced that look, right? Of different. And so yeah, my mom is grown so much, and I think it's been hard for me to even talk about this openly because I think it's in the age of, like, 30-second reels, people want to reduce a person into like good, bad, and like these like
Yeah.
binary, right? And it's just like my mom has really, really been a cycle breaker. And I've said this in a previous video. I think it was through me and that she had to learn. Um, but that's also taken a tremendous, tremendous amount of work for both of us.
Yep.
Yeah, and that work looks like, me leaving the house when I was 22, um, going off and being able to like build my life going against everything um, she said, um, and being able to come back, somehow still come back through it all. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, I'm hearing I see here from the amazing energetic
Yeah.
Joshua, jealousy, rage, bitterness. Yes. And I think my mom was also in this she was under kind of this like false pretense that in order for me to be fully protected in life, I needed to be a man. I needed the protection of a man. Uh,
Mm.
because that was also kind of the culture we grew up in. And I was just like, men have their place as protectors if that's how they choose to show up.
Mhm.
Um, and if we're raising men to be the protectors that they're supposed to be, then we shouldn't have to be in relationships with them for them to protect us, right? Like this is
Mhm.
actually like just who they are, right?
Oh.
Whereas like, it's the same thing if we're going to, embrace there's so many I'm in this place where I'm embracing so many of like my feminine qualities, and I find I'm able to embrace them more when they're not performed out of duty.
Yes.
When I
Yes.
show up in those ways, oh, I the love. Te queremos dalal.
Yeah.
Uh, when I'm not performing any of those things out of duty, societal pressure, out of what will they say, or what will my mom say, you know, I just find a different kind of softness in
That's
that.
right. That's
It's
right,
not
'cause
about,
it's true.
yeah. Hmm.
I'm very happy. I would like to share with the viewers, whether you're live or replay, some of the things that you and I did, because I love this progress you have had in your relationship. I love this. I want so many women in the community now, some many that I work with, have worked with, are still not in healthy relationship with their mom. I mean, I know women right now who are in like, that little woman cannot call me. She is blocked. I mean, like so many women are like that in relationship with their mom right now. Okay. No contact. Mothers are hypercritical of their motherhood, the way they parent. Okay. And it's a lot of pain. And really, and so I'm being okay.
Hmm.
Everybody, listen, women, to me, please, okay? Everybody in your life, your mother and everybody, okay? The checker at Target, your husband, children, your colleagues, clients, strangers, everybody is responding to who you are being, okay?
Yeah. Oh
Everybody
my God.
is responding to who you are being, okay?
Mhm.
So, like even Maida, you shared on Monday about how when you hardened, you noticed that children weren't the same with you. You noticed animals weren't the same with you. Um, uh, I know a woman right now who is constantly saying that her parents don't respect her. Her parents don't respect her. Constantly being like, because men and women are, and and then the question becomes, well, how have you been with your mother?
Mhm.
How have you been with men? How have you been with your colleagues? How have you been? And it's always a kind of wanting the other person to treat them the way they're not treating themselves.
Yes, before they've risen to that person in themselves. And something that it's about owning your complicity, right?
Mhm.
And every dynamic, um, there is a complicity you have. And the conversation gets dicey, right? Because I think there's so many people who, survivors of violence, survivors of um, abuse. Like, I'm not talking about like, you child, own your complicity. I'm talking about what it takes to grow into womanhood and identify the places where you're continuing that complicity, even in this female body. You're no longer a child, right? Um, and taking that responsibility is a little humiliating sometimes.
Mhm. It's hard. It is. It's because
Hard.
it's
Um,
it's it's what if we lived in a society that valued womanhood and manhood, okay? That
mhm,
valued the process, that respected and recognized the necessity of doing very intentional, deliberate things to graduate human beings from birth to 3 to 6 to 9 to 12 to 15 to 20, but we don't have that in modern society. So we just push kids through school and up teenage, and you tell them whatever, and boom, they just supposed to figure this shit out and just get in line. What we've been doing. No. So part of what makes it so painful is because we don't have people holding us with intentionality as we matriculate, and we used to. And this is where we would gather around a person that today we call mental illness. Today we call it, they need pills, they neurotic, they got this, and there ain't no fucking mental illness. Mental illness is a symptom of a displaced human who hasn't been held and intentionally guided, and even bringing light to the village that they're in, the family that they're in. And so we want them to be like this. And then
Mhm.
they be like this, and then they fucking put on a mask so they fit inside of your fucking marriage because the mom and the dad are this is how it goes in this house. And then your fucking 5-year-old turns into a rebellious monster, and then you make them the problem because you conformed like your parents. You fucking, oh, see, stay here, Naima, because you're trying to be a good man and a good woman because this is how it goes. And your light being child came here to shine light and expand you, but you want them to be like this. And then mental illness sets in because then they become dismembered because they need to get love from you as their parents. And so they dismember themselves to fit into this family, and you think they're doing a good job as a kid, when no, they really repressed who they are, and you have a monster in your house. And this is how children learn to be cunning liars to fit in, and then they do all that, and then they become dismembered, and then they grow into these human beings that are the society that we see today. Okay. And um, there's so much more. I got to bring myself back here. And so there is no, the illness is a distorted human. This whole, everything that everybody, almost everybody, because the ones who know, that almost everybody's talking about with mental illness, sickness, just all it's because we have a society that's making humans be under the control of, this is what a man's supposed to be. This is what a woman's supposed to be. And those
And
who
I
do
think that like
right, then they have a good relationship. Those who do it right, and right is subjective, I'm aware. Okay. And what most people mean by right, though, is they mean according to the Bible. Let me bring this back out because I don't, stay here. Okay. Stay here. And so, Maida, I want to share with our viewers here what you and I did to bring harmony in our relationships with our mother, because that's what we're looking at here, freedom.
mhm.
Get into healthy relationships with our parents. Okay. So I want to send a global apology to every human being who did not have the honor and respect for your matriculation in flesh from birth into adulthood and up, and even death, respecting death, leaving your flesh, like the vast disrespect of the whole process. And then you became dismembered and you just had to figure it out. I send a huge love and apology to all of humanity that society has become, okay? And we can correct things. We all have the power to correct. So, Maida, the price that you paid, I paid to venture off, because so many don't, right? To venture off and say, no, I will be who I am. I will find my way, even in the process of, as you described, the hardening and recognizing the price you paid. Yes, there were achievements, and then recognizing, okay, it's time for me to really come back to my who I am and my freedom. What were some of the things that helped you?
Some of the things, I think the first one and really reconciling, even in this electricity, right? This electric dynamic that was happening between me and my mom, there was a high level of codependence. Um, what that would look like is, for many years, and I would say it's still true today. I am one of my mom's like closest friends, confidants, right? And in me being able to embrace my sensual self, um, I had to really sit with and accept that I could not heal my mom.
Mhm.
And I had to really just this savior dynamic, right? That we've talked about, Naima, that I fall into when it comes to anyone in my family that's going through hardship. It was especially present with my mom, and I had to really, really accept that I actually didn't have the power to heal her, even as someone who considers himself a healer. Even as someone who considers themselves a lover of women. Um, and so when I accepted that, I got to, rather than pointing like the finger outward of like, it's your fault, I got to really turn inside myself
Yeah.
and figure out what are the patterns and things I do. And it took a lot of time. It took a lot of time. I went through a lot of continuous judgment, like don't think like when I first sat down with my mom and I told her, who I was sexually at 22, her first response was like feeling shocked. Then she, shared a level of disgust
Mm.
with me.
That's
Um,
good.
and she went like she just like didn't talk to me, but she lasted like 7 days. And this is what I tell people. I'm like, she like FaceTimed me in like a week. We talk every day, so 7 days. She FaceTimed me in a week. And I call it like the total Latina mom power move, like FaceTime me like nothing had happened. Like just like and then I told her, I'm like, "Mommy, you can't not talk to me. I'm
Yeah.
like your best friend. Like you just can't."
And
And
this was
and
at
she
22.
when I
Okay.
was 22. Um and it really helped that at that time at 22 I started college later. I was a non-traditional, I had a very non-traditional path and getting my degree. But I'd moved to New York. Intuitively, I knew the college I needed to go to. It was one of the top LGBTQ friendly schools in the country, and
Mm.
it was a place that was like Sarah Lawrence College. That you know, to like people in my culture, I told them I went to Sarah Lawrence. It's like a girls' school, and they immediately think like Catholic school.
Mm.
Just far from what Sarah Lawrence was. There was I remember most schools have like Spirit Week.
Mm.
Sarah Lawrence had Sleaze Week, where
Mm.
they had like a porn marathon. They were teaching, there was like a BDSM workshop, and I was like, what is this? And then I was like, I loved it.
Yeah.
And so there was like
They're great
a del-
avenues. They're great
Mhm.
avenues for growth, healing, ownership of the multidimensionality of humans. That's why we
And
have
it was
demons walking around because everybody's trying to repress themselves and fit.
Mhm. Yeah. And so I got to explore that away, taking some distance away from my mom, and then in like coming back in relationship with her, just noticing how much I was changing and somehow she was still staying the same. And took a couple years for me to accept like I can't heal her, I can't make her be or do anything, but I can like just work on myself and vibrate at a different level. And somehow through like witnessing those milestones and that transformation my mom has and shifted, you know?
What did
And
it feel like? What did it feel like to be on the receiving end of your mother's disgust? First of all, I think disgust is fabulous.
uh,
This is part of why Own Our Energies exists, Maida. So Own Our
mhm,
Energies is a process that I created to help women own all energies that come with being fully embodied and aroused.
mhm,
And the more intense energies, one is disgust, right? We deal very much with the primal because women are constantly avoiding primal. This is why they can be conquered by men. This is why they can be conquered. They can be arrested mentally by
mhm,
you just throw something intense at them verbally. something primal, something sexual, anything that lives in their unconscious state or in their darkness. If you just throw that at a woman, you can arrest her because she doesn't know how to be with all energies. So this is why own all energies exists. And so this disgust, to be on the receiving end of the woman whose body you came out of her being disgusted with your sexuality. That can send a lot of women into suicide, right? That can send a lot of women into completely abandoning themselves and becoming a walking skeleton, right? Well, I've seen this. You've seen this.
Mhm.
It can send a man or a woman, a little boy or a little girl into becoming a ditty. You know, that can send a boy or a girl into just becoming a wicked, and then they
Mm.
become an adult and people just look at them as, you know, bitch, judgmental, wicked demon bitch, not realizing that she's such a tender thing whose mother told her, "You are a fucking evil bitch, and I wish I never gave birth to you." You don't know that she heard that at 7 years old. You see,
Mhm.
this is why humans need to get the fuck with it. If we gonna live on this planet Earth, we're here, bitch. You want to know why Trump is the way he is? His father never approved of him. Do you know Trump's story? Do you know Trump's story? Do you know the story of every tyrant? Do you know the story of every man who ceaselessly ends to bind humanity because he never got free? Who is committed to keeping humanity enslaved because she never got free. You want to create demons? Bind your children. You want to create an all Hitler never approved of by his fucking family.
Mm.
Every fucking man and woman who we mad and think that they're just demons, they're just born psychopath, criminal psychopath. No, no.
Yeah, you're
Their
made.
mom and dad
Made.
did not approve of them at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And children, for those of you who have children, they are hypersensitive. We love to glamorize them as the closest thing to God and these pure innocent beings. Yeah, they are. And then you come with trying to make them be with this and make them, and then they do a good job of being the child you want them to be, and you're creating a fucking demon in your house. You
Mhm.
cannot make anybody be what you want them to be. Humans very much mimic other humans. So they will mimic very well to the point where you think, he's such a great doctor. Oh my God, she's such an excellent attorney. Oh, she's doing such a good job of being a great mother. Your fucking wife is a demon, bitch. I can see right through her. Okay? So this is what it is, whether you like it or not, approve of it or not, think it's a good idea or not. This is what the fuck is going on. Okay? So you look at Trump and think he's just, yeah, yeah, because his father didn't approve of him.
Yeah, his father didn't approve of him, and I think this is where, like, on the receiving end of that disgust, the power of chosen family, the power of, like what in pre-colonial times was the village, right? Like, so let's say you didn't have a fully accepting mother, father, for me, in that moment dealing with the disgust, I could have easily been taken myself off this planet, right? But I had amazing, amazing chosen family, right? That had also just kind of really coached me through this coming out to my mom, like elders that have already been through it. So, for the women that are watching here, you don't need to be queer, questioning, to be navigating what it's like to show up as your fully sensual self before your mother. Um, you do need community around you, right? Because in that moment, navigating that disgust, I could have easily gone into a shell of myself. Um, and community is really what got me through. Those 7 days felt like the longest days, and that's like, oh my god, I feel even tremendous amount of privilege even saying it. How many parents go no communication,
Yeah.
kick out their trans and queer children, and I had to deal with it for 7 days, which is
Mm,
like a blessing in our times. um, and it was really through her love and my love for myself that I was able to be, you know, to be held through it, and it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Um, and
But what
I
was the feeling though to be on the receiving end of her disgust? How did you
like,
feel?
but the feeling, I literally felt like in my heart broke.
Yeah.
Like it felt like this, like, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was so difficult. I remember we were at a restaurant, so I was like, there was like the element of being in public and trying to hold myself together. But I literally felt my heart break. It felt it here. Um, and yeah, that's how it felt. Um, a tremendous amount of sadness. Felt dirty too. There was like this kind of sense of like, oh, you're disgusted by me. I feel dirty. I feel um unclean, right? And so this is like also connected to um, what religion has done to a lot of Latina women, right? Like Catholic religion has made sex this, and in any context where a Latina woman is taking ownership of her sex, you've made it into a dirty thing.
Yep.
Um,
And this is
so-
worldwide, all women. The weirdness, and this is what, because I want to finish this part about being on the receiving end. This is so good. So I won't even bring up what I was about to bring up. Every woman watching, and even the men watching who care and who want a free woman, who want a free woman. A free woman loves you forever. A free woman helps you get free. There's no condition on a free woman's love. I'll leave that there for now. This pain of being on the receiving end of your mother's lack of approval. Might have used the word disgust, but it could be she wants to make you feel shame. She tells you you're never going to get married. You're a bad mother. You're all the things that a mother could say. And Maida's coming from a lesbian lens, but most women here probably are not lesbian. So the same thing happens. Maida's just telling her story. Okay.
Mhm.
I remember um, being out. Well, I think my sister was there. It was either me, my mom, and my sister, or just me and my mom. And we were out at a bar, and I had gotten a cocktail, and so we're talking. I don't remember the topic, but I remember my mother's former style. My mom, she would say things to induce shame, to like make you feel bad for your way of being with her, saying something, doing something. And I remember, liquor loosens you up. So this was before obviously this was before now. This is years ago. And so I had like a little bit of a cocktail, and she said something that I felt her lack of approval in what she said. And I remember saying to her, Mom, I'm loose. And if I didn't have the liquor in me, I may not have said that. You know what I'm saying? But I remember the feeling, even with the liquor, I remember the feeling of my mom not approving of who I'm being right now. Okay.
Mhm.
And that's what women are all the time struggling with, especially those of us who actually want to have relationships with our mother, which I do. And I have a wonderful one with her now. But like you, Maida, it's the work that we have done, the numerous difficult conversations we have had. And like, so I want women, in giving you all solutions right now, women who are currently you have like you're in a relationship with your mom, but it's toxic, it's struggle, or you're in a no contact, but you want to be in a healthy one eventually. I want you all to have an idea of things that you can begin to do to start to develop a healthy, loving relationship with your mother. With remembering, like Maida said, you can't heal your mother. Like you can't deliver, you can only come into your own self-acceptance and create, as we started to talk about, your own stability, as we talked
Mm,
about on
yeah,
I
inner
think
fortress.
yeah, your inner fortress. And so if you want to say, let me say this before you go on. If you are ready for this power that Maida and I are talking about, if you want to be held in loving accountability and community, and you want to hold other women, if you're ready to grow up and become fully embodied into your sexual state, refine your primal power, you get good with all energy so you can live abundantly in your expression out in the world. Today is our womanhood initiation at 5 p.m. Pacific. There's one today and there's one Sunday. And the Womanhood Initiation is your gateway into the woman community. And this is where we have our virtual community where we do this deeper work around shame, love, your primal self, what's really going on with you, who you were before you shut yourself down because of your lack of your mom's approval or whoever else disapproved of you or triggered shame and disgusting you. So you go to the link in the description for the Womanhood Initiation. You can register there if you are ready for the long game of your full erotic power. So, Maida, did you want to say anything more about what you did to get to the quality of relationship now with your mom?
I think to get to the quality of the relationship with my mom, I through humor, I just experimented with just like the provocative things that I knew would trigger her. So I think it's like humor is such an under I feel like utilized tool sometimes, and for me it's been critical in our healing. So
Yeah.
whenever like I said earlier, like when my mom, I always remind her about that conversation where I heard mejor puta que lesbiana. It's better to be um slut than a lesbian was a message that I heard growing up. And so I always remind her of that. I'm just like, oh mom, you ended up with a daughter that's both. Ha, and she was just like, now she's in a place where she just laughs about it. And, sometimes it's just finding like inappropriate jokes that I know in a different era of my life would have definitely gotten my ass beat. But like in this era, she's not going to hit me. Um,
So
and
humor,
so,
humor.
yeah,
That's the takeaway here. Humor.
humor's big.
Humor is
And
alchemy. Humor is
alchemy,
alchemy, man.
and it doesn't have to be funny to other people. Like
Exactly.
sometimes the humor isn't just like her reaction. And I found like, okay, that first coming out, I felt broken and all of these things at the receiving end of her disgust. And from there, I just unconsciously started to play with it. I was like,
Hmm.
oh, what was it? Whenever I was visiting my grandmother in Costa Rica, there was like and people just only really processed that I was going to like this girls school, so of course they had like a very limited sense of what that college was like. And I would just like play around with even my mom's mom. Like I would be like, oh, I would go horseback riding, but then I'll lose my virginity. And then my abuela would just eat it and she's like, oh yeah, you're right, you have to be very careful. And my mom was just like, this little menace,
Yeah,
So humor, be a menace, be a menace,
that's a
and
T-shirt. Be a menace.
be a menace, man.
Wait,
Because
wait. This is what I mean. You got to put some. Wait, this is what I mean. Wait, hold on.
you know, um, or whenever family would ask, like, y el novio, what about the boyfriend? I would be like, yo soy el novio. I'm like, I'm the boyfriend. Or
Hey,
I would be like, oh, which one? Which of the 6 that I got going on? My mom would be like, "Oh my god, so embarrassing. I can't believe you just said that." You know? But I would just this kind of, it was just play. Play.
yeah,
Be a menace.
exactly.
Humor.
Play, play.
Um, And
Play. Play.
oh my god.
And what I'll say, I'll add to that. Because I love when you said the humor is not, you didn't say it. I'm saying it like this. The humor is not for them, it's for you,
Mhm.
which as part of my closing in our time here today, because we could keep going. This is a great conversation. I agree. I love this conversation, TMP. The humor is not for them, it's for you. What I would like to add to that is, as a takeaway for our viewers, what helped me get to, man, I love the relationship I have with I love that lady. Oh my goodness. Yeah. My mother's my person. And it took a while. And one of the things that really made a difference was me, first of all, to piggyback on it's for you, me deciding, first of all. So the takeaway here is deciding you're going to be who you are. Okay. Like that has to happen. Remember, I said earlier, people are responding to who you're being. So if you're like, they don't respect me, they don't, da, 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 they're responding to who you're being. Now, you can't make anybody respect you or do anything, but they're responding to who you're being. So, first of all, I decided that I was going to grow up. I decided that I was going to be okay with making more money than my mother, because that used to be a big fear of mine, making more money than my mother. Being sexy, or even something that to me is just me dressed, but I look sexy to other people. You know what I'm saying? Cleavage,
Mhm.
you know, like really fully inhabiting my body in front of my mother versus like I'm the daughter. So that means I have to be like this around my mother, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And it's not that
Mhm.
I'm trying to be all like some, exaggerated feminine thing around my mother, but being I actually am around my mother. If my thigh happens to show when I cross my legs, I don't freak out. If I'm
Mhm.
wearing a shirt that has cleavage, I'm not all like hyper, like,
Yeah.
but I can be voluptuous. I can laugh hysterically. That I can even be aroused. Keep in mind, when I say aroused, this is not just sexual.
Mhm.
Aroused is how you feel even like when you get good with own all energy, even other people's disgust can be arousing. And even the feeling of shame is arousal. We just have a negative connotation to it. Anything that we perceive as mean, aggressive, ugly, all of that is arousing. We just have a negative connotation to it. We only like the kind of arousal that to us feels good. Laughter,
Mhm.
smelling pastries, if we love to smell pies and shit. Okay? The smell of a flower that we love, a beautiful sky, music that we love. We love that kind of arousal, but we don't want the kind of arousal of somebody cutting us off on the freeway. We don't want that kind of arousal of our mother not approving of our outfits. We don't want the kind of arousal that comes from rejection. Oh,
Mhm.
and so we take it and we make it something bad, where when you get good with owning all energies, rejection becomes like, wow, you
Ooh.
open your leg like,
Mhm.
oh, and you can do what you want to do with it versus
Mhm.
carrying this universal meaning of what rejection means. That's not what you're not free in that, because what you're doing is you're taking on what it's supposed to mean versus what does this mean to me?
Mhm.
This is what Own All Energies helps you do. So, one, I decided I was getting free, that I was going to let myself make all the money, whether I made more money than her or not. Then, as I always share, radical honesty. So I went and had, and here's the another takeaway for all of you who are avoiding, you're avoiding the conversation, you're avoiding the decision, you're avoiding the thing that you know is going to feel like hard or uncomfortable, or when you don't know what's going to happen. Because so often you avoid the unknown because you don't know what's going to happen if you do this. So it keeps you out of the power that happens on the other side of that, whatever that is. So my takeaway for you, if you would like to take this away, is one, decide you're going to be an aroused, vibrant, sexy, who does she think she is woman in the presence of your mother and all other beings, and that you're going to be radically honest, and that you're going to do the thing that may feel confrontational, unknown, scary, uncomfortable, that you are being called to do. And in my case, it was to have conversations with my mother about things that I could feel were in between us based on how I was feeling. So that's what I give to you as a means to strengthen, nourish, develop, build a foundation for a healthy relationship with tu mama.
With
Okay.
and joining the women community too to support you through it.
Yes.
Because it's never gonna be a one-time conversation.
Never. See the rest of your life.
Decades of work, right?
The rest of
And
your life.
being able to come to before a community of other women who are navigating similar things in order to come into their power,
Yeah.
I think is critical.
Yeah. To get free. I don't see any questions in the comments, but thank you for all the engagement, everybody. To get free. Okay. All righty. So again, the Womanhood Initiation is today at 5 p.m. Pacific. That is your gateway into the woman community. If you can't make it today, we have another one on Sunday. So go ahead and register if you want to make it to Sunday. And for those of you who come through, I look forward to seeing your face on Zoom. Maida, thank you so very much. Muchas gracias. And I'll see you
Besitos.
soon. Ciao for
Ciao.
now.